Chromium is not just a metal, it's a resilience system. What a powerful statement, right? It takes something you'd find on the periodic table and turns it into the very bedrock of an entire national strategy. So how on earth do they do it? Let's dive in.
Welcome! Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating blueprint. It's all about how a nation can take one single natural resource and spin it into this incredible system for national strength, for wealth, and even global influence. We're basically looking at a masterclass in strategy here, South Africa's 12 Pillars of Resilience, and it's all built around one thing: chromium.
Okay, so before we can really get into the nuts and bolts of the system, we've got to start with the raw material itself. I mean, what is chromium really, and why is it so absolutely crucial to our modern world?
You know, chromium's role is just fundamental. It's the magic ingredient, the secret sauce that makes steel stainless. Think about it. It protects everything from a surgeon's scalpel to your kitchen sink from ever rusting. But it goes way beyond that. It's absolutely essential for the high-tech alloys in jet engines and for the special coatings that keep our bridges and pipelines from literally crumbling away. It's really not an exaggeration to say it's a cornerstone of modern life.
All right, so it's one thing to have a bunch of this valuable stuff in the ground, but it's a whole other challenge to turn that into a real industrial powerhouse, right? So let's follow the journey. Let's see how chromium goes from just a rock in the earth to a high-value product ready to be shipped around the world.
The key to this whole strategy is controlling the entire process from start to finish. So first, you've got to refine the raw ore. Then comes this really critical step, producing something called ferrochrome. That's the alloy you mix with iron to get stainless steel. Only then do you move on to actually making the steel itself, and finally getting it out the door through a pretty slick logistics network.
And this is where you realize this industrial chain, it isn't just a couple of factories. No way. It's a massive, totally integrated network. We're talking about dedicated transport routes, they call them steel corridors, and even specialized export terminals at the ports. But, and this is so important, it's also about a whole thriving ecosystem of smaller businesses. These are the guys doing fabrication, making specialized parts, developing advanced coatings, basically adding value and creating jobs at every single step of the way.
Okay, so the industrial engine is humming along, but how do you actually capture all the economic value that it's creating? Well, this is where the strategy pivots. We're moving from the physical stuff, the factories and trucks, to a really sophisticated financial blueprint. And it's all designed to make sure the nation gets the maximum benefit.
And this right here, this is the absolute game changer. The old way of doing things, for so many countries rich in resources, was just to dig the raw stuff out of the ground and sell it for cheap. You know, you let someone else make all the real money. This pillar model, it flips that script completely. It's about controlling the whole shebang, the entire value chain, from that refined metal all the way to the bridges and buildings it ends up in.
So how does this financial strategy work? Well, it basically stands on three core pillars. You've got a commodity desk to control pricing. You've got a sovereign fund to grab and reinvest the profits. And you've got predictive modeling to see what's coming down the road and stay ahead of the game. Let's break down those first two, because they're huge. Think of the commodity desk as the strategic brain of the whole operation. Instead of just having to accept whatever price the global market feels like offering that day, being a price taker, this lets them be a price maker. It means they can actively manage their export strategy to make sure they're getting the absolute best return, both financially and strategically, for this incredible resource. And all those profits that they're making, they don't just disappear. They flow directly into a sovereign fund. This is the nation's wealth-building engine, for real. It takes all that value captured from the global market and plows it right back into the country. What you get is this powerful, self-sustaining cycle of growth. It's brilliant. Okay, so they're reinvesting the money, but where does it actually go? This is where you see just how forward-thinking this whole strategy is. The wealth that comes from chromium isn't just for today. It's being used to build a future that's smarter, more skilled, and frankly, a lot more sustainable. And these aren't just random investments, they are super targeted. We're talking about pouring money into technology, things like creating advanced new alloys or figuring out green steel production. And this is so critical, they're investing in people, developing the exact skills they need in the industry. Plus, they're thinking about the planet, investing in things like chromium recycling to close that loop and make the whole system more sustainable. And let's just pause on this for a second because it is so important. You can have the best strategy in the world, but it's totally worthless if you don't have the skilled people to make it happen.
By pumping money into specialized trade schools, they're creating this constant pipeline of talent. Welders, metallurgists, designers, the very people who will keep this industry innovating and moving forward.
Look, in a global market, if you stand still, you fall behind. So to stay competitive, you've got to live on the cutting edge. That's where this dedicated research hub comes in. These are the folks working on the next generation of materials and processes. The goal here isn't just to sell today's product, it's to invent what the world is going to be demanding tomorrow, especially with the huge push for sustainable low-emission steel.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got the industrial chain, we've got the smart economic blueprint, and we've got the long-term investments in people and tech. So the big question is, what does it all add up to? What happens when all these pillars work together? Let's zoom out and look at the real-world impact, both at home and across the globe.
And this is the payoff. This is what it's all for. The Chromium strategy leads to stronger, more resilient cities right there at home. It creates some serious diplomatic leverage on the world stage. And it positions the country to be an absolutely essential leader for the entire continent. You see, they've literally transformed a metal into real-world geopolitical power and social strength.
So what does this look like on the ground for everyday people? It means the money made from selling steel to the world comes right back home to build better, longer-lasting infrastructure for its own citizens. We're talking about housing that can withstand the elements, bridges you can rely on, and sanitation systems that are safer and more hygienic. All of this is built on the back of the nation's own stainless strength.
And then there's the world stage. When you control a resource that everybody needs, well, that gives you a lot of pull. It's a powerful tool. They call it steel diplomacy, and it's all about strengthening partnerships with major global players. Think BRICS nations, other African countries, basically anyone who needs top-quality steel to build their own future.
And that brings us to the grand ambition, the ultimate vision. The goal is nothing less than to become the go-to foundational supplier for development across the entire African continent. The idea is to literally be Africa's stainless steel backbone, powering its growth and its renewal for generations.
It really all comes down to this simple, powerful idea. South Africa holds the key to stainless strength. It just perfectly sums up this whole complex, brilliant system. By taking a simple metal and making it a pillar of national strategy, they really do hold the key.
And that's where we'll leave it, but with one final question for you to think about. I mean, sure, this whole explainer was about chromium in South Africa, but the blueprint itself? That could work anywhere. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other resources, maybe even in your own backyard, are just sitting there, waiting for the right strategy to unlock their hidden potential and turn them into a complete system for resilience?